In this challenging economy, many businesses are struggling to stay in the black. But one business turnaround expert explains what you can do to repay your business loan. Jim Martin is managing partner for ACM Capital Partners. He can offer us now some advice on diffusing tough situations. And welcome to our show. I guess this is prime time for a business turnaround expert, isn't it?
It is indeed. It is indeed. We are in the Great Recession, as we all know. And this is a time when we are called in by both the debtors as well as the creditors in many instances to come in and help to determine if a company is cash flowing, i.e. are they cash flow positive, and if they're not, how do we fix that?
When you go into a company, you do an analysis before you take them on as a client, correct?
That's correct. We will go in, we will assess the situation, and oftentimes what we want to do is we want to look at the company's balance sheet. We want to look at the amount of debt that they have on their balance sheet to determine if it's the right amount of debt that they have to support the business model that they're in.
What's the first thing you do after you take a look at the situation with the company, decide to take them on as a client? What is the first step you take?
We first go in and again we determine their cash burn. If they're burning cash, we want to be able to fix that as quickly as possible. So that's the first thing that we take over, is the cash flow and determining whether or not the business is generating positive cash flow or not.
In many cases, do you say, well, this business is lost, the best option for you is to declare bankruptcy?
Well, and as we know, bankruptcy isn't always the last option. Bankruptcy, a Chapter 11 bankruptcy gives a debtor relief, but obviously then a Chapter 11 can go into a Chapter 7 and then they liquidate. But so it depends on the company, depends on the business that they're in and the industry that they're in as well.
Mm-hmm. You've saved a lot of corporations down here in South Florida and around the country as well.
We have. We saved a large aviation company right here in our own hometown after 9/11. And it was a case where, to your point, we had the option of taking it into bankruptcy. We opted not to do that. We took the amount of employees down from 750 to 450 for a period of time. We restructured the balance sheet, as I said, and then we ultimately recovered, and we brought that employee base back up to over 800.
So in many cases, the problems with these corporations is efficiency.
Well, in many cases, it is efficiency. Let's face it, when the boom times come, we get fat. And so that's when companies really got into trouble, because they also levered up their balance sheet, meaning they incurred more debt. And they also had probably more costs than they really needed to have to support the business. Taking
a look at your business now and what's happening within the economy, any indicators you could tell us about the next year or so?
Well, we have a couple of clients that are logistics companies, so we know how they're doing with respect to moving inventory across the country, and we know that there's pockets of recovery. We know that there are certain retailers that are doing better than others, and so in certain areas we believe that the economy is on the rebound, and others it's simply not.
Well, we talk about pockets. Are we talking about businesses, business types, or areas?
We're talking both, areas as well as business types.
And are you optimistic or pessimistic about the next 12 months?
Well, I'm an optimistic guy. So I think it's a question of we're going to have a tough go for the next 12 months or so. Let's face it, unemployment is still very high. We have an enormous amount of debt in the marketplace today, but I believe that we're on the right track. I think companies have been downsizing from a cost standpoint. And they've been doing that for 3 or 4 years now, so I think that they're positioned well for a recovery.
All right, well, thank you very much. Learn simple business tips by heading to Xfinity On Demand and selecting How To under the Get Local section. I'm Spero Canton. Thank you for joining us.